Last night my son came up to me and asked about a Supreme Court case. It was Plessy versus Ferguson. Unfortunately, I do not know the case. Please, Sarah, can you tell me about the case?
Of course, Larry. First of all, I have to tell you about the Safe Car Act. This act stated that all railway companies carrying passengers in their coaches in this state shall provide equal but separate accommodations for the white and colored races by providing 2 or more passenger coaches for each passenger train, or by dividing the passenger coaches by a partition so as to secure separate accommodations. If someone violated this, there was a $25 fine or the person spent 20 days in jail.
Okay, but what does this have to do with the case?
It is simple, Larry. The Plessy case was carefully orchestrated by both the Citizens Committee to test the constitutionality of the Separate Car Act, a group of blacks who raised $3,000 to challenge the act, and the East Louisiana Railroad Company, which sought to terminate the act largely for monetary reasons.
Wait, are you telling me that this was all planned out?
That's exactly what I'm telling you. Larry, Homer Plessy, a U.S. citizen and resident of Louisiana that was 1/8 black, was chosen for this trial. On June 7, 1892, Plessy purchased a first-class passage from New Orleans to Covington, Louisiana, and sat in the railroad car designated for whites only. The railroad officials, following through on the arrangement, arrested Plessy and charged him with violating the Separate Car Act.
What happened?
I'm getting to that.
Sorry. Go on.
The committees had already found New York attorney Albion W. Turgey, who had worked on civil rights cases for African Americans before. Turgey argued that Plessy's civil rights under the 13th and 14th Amendments to the Constitution had been violated.
I see.
Judge John Ferguson had once ruled against separate cars for interstate railroad travel. He ruled against Plessy in this case because he believed that the state had a right to set segregation policies within its own boundaries. The case was taken to the Louisiana Supreme Court. Ferguson's decision was upheld.
Really?
Yes. In 1896, the Plessy versus Ferguson case was reviewed by the U.S. Supreme Court. The Supreme Court also ruled against Plessy with an 8-person majority. It declared that the Separate Car Act was constitutional as long as there were separate but equal accommodations for both blacks and whites.
Fascinating. But what changed this?
A case named Brown versus Board of Education, which took place in 1954. But that's a story for another time.
Break time. All this case talk is making me restless.
Haha. You're right, Larry. Well, let's say goodbye.